Yes, 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 Star Wars is back, everybody. And, I'm just not even gonna drag this on any further. Let's get right into my review of Star Wars The Force Awakens. So, guys, this movie was just great. I loved it so much. There's so much to talk about and so little time, so first thing I really want to talk about is just the movie itself. Is it great? Yes. I really love the use of practical effects for the movie, and barely any CG is used, but when it's used, it blends in very well, except for maybe one or two things, which I'll get into later. But for the most part, it works all very, very well, and it's amazing. The practical effects look fantastic. I love that J.J. Abrams was going for a more practical effects heavy movie to make the actual things, all the stuff look real, and all the objects and the creatures and people and everything. Just fantastic work on those. Also, the some of the CG that's used when it is used looks amazing because some like the landscapes and the on location sets as well look fantastic. Like the snowy mountainsides or the dusty or the sandy deserts or the beautiful looking forests all look fantastic, and I love it when films like this in particular, especially Star Wars, are shot on location because it makes the environment feel so much more real, and it makes it look beautiful. I love this movie because it looks amazing. Seriously, in like the first shot, I immediately knew this is gonna be a better looking movie than any of the prequels because of how much blue screen crappy environments that those prequels used to actually get scenes for the most part. It made it look unrealistic and boring, and that's why I have to say I love all the scenery in this movie. Okay. Sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself there talking about that first. So, what this movie is about is we have this new. What the basic premise is Luke Skywalker has vanished. No one knows where he is, and the rebels have found. The rebels, Republic, whatever, have found a map that leads to Luke Skywalker. However, there's this new big baddie in the universe that is following basically in the Empire's footsteps called the First Order, who wants to get the map to Luke Skywalker first so they can kill him. And that basically sets up the story, and then we meet Rey, who is like a scavenger on the planet of Jakku, and then we have Finn, who is a stormtrooper who defects because he sees some stuff that he didn't want to see and that he didn't want to do, so he decides to escape, and that's where our story begins basically. And the story overall, fantastic. I loved it. I'll get into it later, but it did start to at points it would start you could start feeling that similarity to other Star Wars films. I'm gonna get into that later, but just remember that right now. That's one thing I have to say about the story. But other than that, the story's fantastic. I loved all the characters. Rey, I can't remember who plays her actually now because I'm an idiot. But she did a fantastic job playing her. She gave her a great female role, and I bought her performance completely. Then we had Finn, who, yes, he did a fantastic job. John Boyega did. He was great. He was funny, and that's another thing I have to say about this movie. Is it's funny. It's hilarious. I love some of the comedic moments in this. All the banter, especially between Han Solo and Chewbacca, for sure. It is pretty great. Um, Other than that, the characters again, Poe Dameron, he is amazing. Played by Oscar Isaac, if I'm not mistaken, did a fantastic job. Him and John Boyega's characters both have this cool, interesting relationship, and they really are pretty good together. Anyway, and then we have Kylo Ren, who, yes, I liked him. I liked him a lot. He is awesome. He gets stuff done. he makes sure that people know that he is a badass, basically. He is. And he shows it lots of times in this movie. He will show that he is exactly that. And he was menacing, but there was also a big flaw to him that we learn about later in the film, and I'm not going to spoil this or anything. I'll get to that when I do my spoiler discussion, but there's some times in this movie where he's struggling between the light and the dark side of the Force. And it's pretty interesting character development, especially for someone who is basically I wouldn't say exactly a Sith yet, because I don't think he's actually a Sith. Anyway, yeah, definitely did a great job. And then, of course, we have the returning characters such as Harrison Ford, Peter Mayhew, Carrie Fisher, all of them. And they did great. Like, we've gotten movies this year that have tried to take something that's nostalgic and then put some returning characters in it. For example, Terminator Genisys. But the problem with that movie was it didn't focus enough on the new people, the new stuff, and everything. It just started harkening back to the old, and just on Arnold Schwarzenegger being a witty, funny robot and also being amazing at the same time. And it was just a stereotype at this point, and it's like, oh yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger doing the same exact thing he's done before. Wow, that's just great. But that's why I like this movie. But I love this movie because the characters didn't ham in a performance. They didn't just half-ass it. You know what I mean? They did a great job. They did an amazing job at just not being just this nostalgia boost. Like, they weren't the centerpiece of the movie like they could have been. Like, it could have ended up being they were the centerpiece and no focus was given on a new character, so you had no time to care about them. And yeah, I that's all I have to say about them. And other than that, all the characters did a fantastic job. There were one or two that I will talk about in my spoiler review. One or two characters that they felt like they were gonna start getting put in the story, and then they kind of just they're gone. Oh, bye, see ya. And it was kind of like, what was that about? You know what I mean? Like, you didn't use them? Okay, whatever. Not my problem. But yeah, that's probably the only complaint I would have with some of the characters. I have to get into that in my spoiler review anyway. And yeah, all the performances in this movie were just fantastic. And then, of course, this movie isn't just epic amazingness and humor and happy-go-lucky. It is filled with some very emotional scenes, very sad, very oh my gosh, scenes. Especially one scene towards the end of the movie. I'm not going to spoil it at all. That'll be in my spoiler discussion for sure. But it was a scene that was just oh my gosh. That. Anyway. And if you're wondering if Luke Skywalker is in this movie, yes, he is. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to say anything else until my spoiler discussion. You're going to have to watch that in order to find out what's up with Luke Skywalker in this movie. Anyway, so again, everything just looks amazing. The cinematography is fantastic. There are some beautifully shot scenes in this movie. Like, one example is, you've seen in the trailers when the Millennium Falcon is going around on the desert planet of Jakku. And that part is just, yes, sometimes in this movie, especially the first time, and you've seen this in the trailers also, you'll see that Finn pulls out the lightsaber at one point, not when he's in the snow place, but in the middle of this, fighting and everything, and there's a stormtrooper that pulls out, this plasma electric type thing, and when he pulls out that lightsaber the first time, I was like, yes. It was amazing, and I probably would have cried man tears if my dad was not there with me. Anyway, Yes, again, beautifully shot movie, great cinematography, everything looks amazing. Um, Other than that, I really don't have many complaints with the movie. The only thing I could say is there's a few too many similarities to A New Hope in it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you sometimes can see it and you're like, oh, what? Did we really need to put that in there? I don't know. But yeah, it had some similarities. The Star Killer huge machine in this movie, it's basically like the Death Star almost. It wasn't as intimidating as I would have thought it would have been, much like the Death Star. Like the Death Star wasn't even really that intimidating when I first saw it, so this one wasn't that intimidating either. Also, there are two CGI people, aliens, whatever, in this movie. They don't look good considering the fact. Well, they don't look bad, but they stand out compared to the entire practical side of the entire movie. The lightsaber fights also look fantastic, or lightsaber fight, I should say. I'm not going to spoil anything that happens in it, but just the effects of the lightsabers and everything made me want a real life lightsaber again. Oh, yeah. Um, Other than that, only other negatives I have with this are none. I can't think of really anything else that's bad about this movie necessarily. And yeah, guys, Star Wars The Force Awakens is a fantastic film. It's one of my favorite of 2015 so far, by far. And I couldn't see anybody else but J.J. Abrams helming this. It's full of a few nostalgia hints to keep old Star Wars fans really interested. It's full of great acting, beautiful looking sets, and cinematography, great looking effects, practical effects, and CGI. Um, Great emotional scenes, the great humor, just great character development overall. Some of the stormtroopers actually, seem like real people because I there's a few times in which stormtroopers look at Finn in this movie, and this isn't much of a spoiler because it's not much of a plot point spoiler, and you already know Finn betrays the Order at one point, and these stormtroopers will go like traitor every time they see him, and it's just awesome because that gives them some depth, and like they actually get mad at him for this thing, and it's really cool because of that. There were two very underused characters that didn't really feel like they needed to be in this movie. They were more meant to put in there to sell their characters and action figures and everything before the movie even came out. And it was kind of a little bit like, why would you do that? But, I can't complain, really, because this movie's still awesome. Again, couldn't see anyone but J.J. Abrams helming this movie. It's fantastic, one of my favorite of the year, and a fresh new take on the Star Wars movies ever since the horrid prequels that we got. And with that, guys, and also before I end this review, I also have to say that this film is very expositionless. It keeps moving, it keeps going after every scene, keeps going. We don't have lots of exposition. There's lots of times where people have to deal with stuff in their mind, and it's great, and I love it. And I can't say that Star Wars The Force Awakens should achieve anything less than pure amazingness. Guys, I want to thank you so much again for watching my review. Definitely go see Star Wars The Force Awakens. It's totally worth it. And if you don't, you'd be doing yourself a disservice. Seriously, I'm going to be watching it a second time very soon myself. And then I'll be able to form my real opinion on where it ranks in Star Wars movies. And with that, I just want to thank you again for watching. Like I said before, if you like this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel. Be looking forward to my spoiler discussion video of this movie because there's a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about in this review, but it would have spoiled tons of stuff about this movie, and I don't want to spoil the people who have not seen the movie yet. So, That's what I'm doing right now, and just look forward to that. I'm also gonna have my catch up 2015, more like uh, movies I missed in 2015. I missed a ton of movies to review. I saw movies, but I didn't review them. You know what I mean. And I have to get that done. So that should be up soon as well. Other than that, should. We're getting closer than a year, so my top 10 movies and games lists are going to be coming along shortly. The problem is, there's a bunch of movies that I want to see that come out this year, but they're not going to be in wide release till next year, so you might have to wait a little bit longer for my movie review. Not my game one, though. That one's going to be out before the end of the year, at least. And that, guys, I want to thank you for watching, and as always, don't forget that sometimes series franchises can be brought back and be good.